Hey, let's welcome in Ken Guthrie, Orioles scout since 2012, and he's had a few exciting days. Let's just put it that way, because Ken is the scout for Heston Kjerstad, the #2 pick in the draft that the Orioles just selected the other night, the outfielder from the University of Arkansas. And so, Ken, anything exciting going on in your world the last few days?
Yeah, to say the least. It was certainly exciting to hear Heston's name called the other day, and obviously that was followed up with a lot of congratulations, not only from our staff, but a lot of people involved around the game that I've been around in the past, and just friends and family and whatnot that have sent in texts and returning phone calls, but most importantly, making sure that Heston's welcome to Birdland and his family was congratulated. And of course, well, I'm sure we'll talk about that, but I've known the family for a long time, so it was a real exciting last couple of days for sure.
I do want to talk about that, but let me ask you first about a neat thing that the Orioles put on their social media, on their Twitter, which I thought was nice, taking all of us kind of inside the process. And it showed when the pick was made and all the Orioles scouts congratulating you on the Zoom call, and you could tell it was heartfelt. And all those scouts know what you know. You can put in hours upon hours and months into recruiting, scouting, knowing a kid, and he may never even get drafted, much less get drafted #2 in the entire draft. So
Yeah.
what was that moment like, just when the other scouts were letting you know how they felt?
Well, I certainly appreciated it, and it makes you feel good when your team accepts you like that, because that's the way I look at our staff, is we're one big team. And I don't remember if it was caught on video, but the most important thing for me during that moment is that everybody shared the same feeling that I did. This was a team effort. This wasn't just one scout, getting an opportunity to sign one player. This was our whole scouting department, from the area scouts to the cross checkers to Brad to the analysts to Mike and Sig. This was a team effort by the whole scouting department.
Mike Elias's comments makes it clear he's raving about this kid, his talent, his makeup, power, foul pole to foul pole, all the things he said. Heston handled himself so well the other night, too. So expanding on what you just said about the whole organization, obviously if you would take every player, every scout, or every front office guy, they might not all have picked Heston #2. But do you feel there was a lot of consensus? Was there a lot of people in the organization that thought we should take a good hard look here?
Oh, absolutely. We met in the fall as a group, and that was an opportunity for the entire scouting department to kind of gather some names and target some guys that would be, candidates for our top picks in this draft. Of course, that was prior to COVID. So, but as we went into the spring season, Heston was definitely one of the guys that, Brad made sure that there was a lot of boots on the ground to get a lot of looks on Heston, as well as a lot of other players at that time. So he was, even from last fall, and for me personally, I was able to evaluate Heston when he was in high school. He was a player that I had interest in high school, and definitely had on our draft board out of high school. But from an organizational standpoint in our scouting department, he was certainly a candidate, even as far as last fall, as someone that we were going to get a lot of looks on this spring.
So a lot has been written and said that you have a great relationship, not only with Heston, but his family. And it's been that way for a while. You know this family. Give us the history and the background.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure to coach his brother, Dexter Kjerstad. Dexter, ironically, played on the same summer ball team as Dylan Bundy. But so that's where I first met the Kjerstad family, was coaching Heston's older brother when Heston was just a small little kid running around the ballpark when he wasn't at his own games during that time. But over the years, again, when I saw him playing in high school, his parents are obviously very supportive of Heston, and I got to run into him and have a really nice conversation with him when he was in high school, when I saw him in high school. And then going into Fayetteville and watching Heston play at Arkansas, I would always make a point to try to find him. They were kind of under the radar. They like to stay behind the scenes, blue-collar family, but I'd always make a point to go down the line and find his mom and dad and share a little time with them. But, then in the off seasons, like in the fall, this fall prior to the spring kicking off, that's when I would meet with Heston one-on-one and kind of talk about some things and what his thoughts were going into his draft year and whatnot. So it's just been a really cool opportunity to see this kid mature from a very young age into his draft year in high school and now his draft year in college and get to know the family like I have. It's a pretty cool opportunity.
As a reporter, we interviewed Heston, 15 or 20-minute Zoom video on draft night. So you're not going to get to know a kid in 15 or 20 minutes, but you can get impressions. And what I got is a confident, but certainly not a cocky kid. He believes in himself. He was so well-spoken. He handled himself well. Is that coming from the family? Is that the same background you have with him?
Yeah, absolutely. The Kjerstads are a really hardworking family. They have high morals and standards. His parents have done a really nice job with all their children, but that's a reflection on what you saw with Heston. I mean, and that's part of the attraction for me as an area scout is when you can combine the talent and the tools that he possesses along with the makeup that gives you confidence knowing that he's going to be able to maximize those tools and reach the potential with the makeup that he has. But it's it's your typical West Texas family that works hard. They believe in doing right. They believe in doing the right things. And I certainly see that, over the years that I've watched Heston, that's translated to the field.
So, Ken, certainly not an unknown player by any stretch. I mean, this kid was preseason first-team All-American in college for many publications, SEC Freshman of the Year a couple years ago. But is there something or things that happened in 2020, even in the small sample size of a season, that took him from being maybe 6, 8, 10, 15 to 2?
Yeah, well, I'm certain there's going to be a lot written about this and a lot discussed even prior and after. But, the only board that the Orioles can control as far as, our draft room is the Orioles board. So when we go into a draft, I mean, certainly we all are aware of where players sit on mock drafts and whatnot. But all that being said, Heston, I don't know if we actually stack these players up and rank them 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 or any of that. The way we've operated starting last year was we're going to gather as much information as we can on these players up until it's time to pick their name. And sometimes you get information late, sometimes you get that information early, but the way we do it is let's not stack these guys up from the very beginning. Let's let it all play out, gather as much information as we possibly can, and then make the best decision for the club. And I think that's the platform that Mike's put forth with Sig and Brad. And in this situation, I think that there was a lot of support, and everybody in our scouting department had a lot to do with it, and really liked the way that Heston went about his business and what he's done over the 3 or 4 years, 3 years at Arkansas. And, I think everybody was excited about this pick.
So one thing, just looking at the stat sheet that made dramatic improvement in the short 2020 season we had was strikeout rate. I think it was like 21 to 11. Rate went down from his sophomore to junior year. Again, small sample size, but that's what we have. And the kid had incredible 2020 numbers. How did he do that? Was that important to the Orioles?
I mean, I think it's important with every player, that the strikeout to walk ratio is, stays in line. But, Heston, like any amateur player, every year there's a maturation process. There's certain things, and to his the way he goes about doing things is he tries to get better at some facet of his game each and every day. And so those are certain strides that he's made over the year. My job as an area scout is, and I would assume everybody in our department is, we can definitely look at things that happened today and have happened in the past. But the most important thing is what is this player going to do in the prime years of his career? And so I think with the collection of data and experience that we've had and the background that we had with Heston is that's what ultimately led Mike in that department to make the pick and feel confident with the pick, is that we know we're getting a really, really good player, and we know that he's not just what he is today, but he's even going to be better.
Wow, that's exciting to hear that. How about the defense, Ken? Tell me about his defense, and are there any challenges there? What do you like about it?
I mean, he certainly profiles in right field. I like the arm strength. It's playable. You know, whether or not he spends any time in center field, that'll ultimately be, you know, the development that he has and what our player development decides to do. But, you know, I think, again, he takes the same approach that he does at the plate in the outfield every day. He's working hard. He's getting better every day. And I think he's going to be a solid ball player in all facets of his game.
All right, I want to ask you to give me tool grades that you put on him, because that would probably be giving information you're not supposed to. But let me phrase it this way. We know he's a special bat. Would a lot of scouts grade the hit tool over power or power over hit? Probably, I'm guessing power, but maybe I'm not right there.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I can only speak for myself, and that's what makes Heston so special. It's not just a power hitter. This guy has natural abilities to hit the baseball and square up the ball routinely. So because he is so strong, he's able to maximize that power. Personally, I think you're going to see a successful hitter and you're going to see a successful power hitter at the same time.
Ken, let's wrap this up where we began. How cool it must be for you as a scout to see the process from beginning to end. And it's not really the end, it's the end of his amateur days. And now some things really are going to begin for him. But what was the whole process like for you? Can let our readers and fans know what it's like and how much time is put into these young men to get to the point you got to the other night?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of sweat equity for certain. There's a lot of, it's not just hours, it's years. Again, we've been scouting Heston and with all of our picks since their high school days. And a lot of times players are taken out of high school, but when you take a college player, you've got 5 or 6 years invested in a player like this, and a lot of time getting to know the kid and getting to know the family. And it's definitely rewarding. And sometimes the draft doesn't always line up for an area scout. You may like a player, but it just doesn't fall that way. But I guess this was my lucky year, our team's lucky year, for everything to line up to get a kid like this and a family like this being part of our organization.
Well, it's so cool for you to spend time with me today and tonight, because when you think of all the people who had some exciting things around this pick, sometimes we don't think of the scout. But I think tonight you provided a really good picture of all the time and hours that went into this. And then that name was called. So you're going to be riding high for a few weeks, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, like I said, it's a pretty special moment. The most important thing for me is that it's not just me; it's the entire scouting department that has a part in this. And I guess the real exciting part is to see what Orioles fans get to see in Heston that we've all seen in our draft room, is that there's some exciting years ahead for this kid and Orioles fans alone.
Ken Guthrie, Orioles scout, the scout with Heston Kjerstad, their top pick the other night. Thanks, Ken, for taking time for me today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I enjoyed it for certain.